Okay, you're becoming experts at comparing fractions. And then today we're going to take it a step further and order fractions. But first, let's just review one of my favorite strategies for comparing, which is to have a common denominator. So in this case, our two fractions are 7/9 and 5/6. And we want to know what would go in there, greater than, less than, or equal to. So your hint is to answer the question below first. So first, what common denominator would we want to give the fractions 7/9 and 5/6? So the best way to do that is I'm going to think of, what would be a multiple of 9 that's also a multiple of 6? So go in your book, look on your multiplication chart. Maybe you can think of one already, but otherwise study your multiplication chart and try to find a multiple of 9 that is also a multiple of 6. Pause the video if you need more time and play back when you're ready to see the answer. One that I thought of was 18. Right? 9 times 2 is 18, and 6 times 3 is 18. So we're going to give them a common denominator of 18. So let's go ahead and rewrite these fractions with the denominator 18. So 7/9 equals blank 18ths. So I will use the power of the equivalent fractions rule. I see that 9 times 2 would have gotten me 18. So whatever I multiply in the denominator, I also have to multiply by in the numerator. 7 times 2 gives you 14. Okay, now let's do it for 5/6. I want to change that into 18ths. So I have to ask myself, 6 times what equals 18? 6 times 3. And whatever I multiply in the denominator, I also have to multiply by in the numerator. 5 times 3 is 15. Woo, these were really close. Look, 14/18 versus 15/18. But I can see that 15, or I'll write it this way, 14/18 was a little bit less than 15/18. It's 1/18 less. This would be something, so I probably couldn't have just drawn a picture freehand and known. I needed to really use this common denominator strategy to know for sure. And I'll go back in and fill out this statement. So that means 7/9 is less than 5/6. Okay, so that was an especially close comparison. Now we're going to look at some friendlier fractions and go back to our strategy of a benchmark number, because I love this strategy for comparing fractions as well. Remember, it's one that you can visualize easily. You can compare other fractions by judging how close they are to your benchmarks. So we're going to sort these fractions compared to the benchmark of a half, because that's an easy one for us to picture in our head and to find equivalent fractions for it quickly. So you can picture it as a shaded pie, or you could picture it on a number line as well. So let's have you pause the video and go ahead and sort these fractions: 3/4, 1/10, 2/6, 11/12, and 52/100. Sort if they're less than a half, more than a half, and I'm going to change this one to close to 1/2. So if you think they're way less, way more, or close to. So go ahead and sort those and play the video back when you're ready to see the answers. So I'm going to know, I know 3/4 is actually, it's almost a whole, right? So I'm going to go ahead and sort that's more than a half. 1/10, that's almost 0. So I'm going to go put that less than a half. 2/6, so I have to think, well, 2/6, 1/2 would be how many 6? 1/2 would be 3/6. So this is a little less than a half, but just barely, right? So if you put that in close to a half, you're correct as well. And then 11/12. 11/12, that's almost a whole, right? So I'm going to go move that as more than a half. And 52/100. Well, how many hundredths would be exactly a half? 50/100 would be exactly. So this is a little more, but again, that's kind of one of those close to numbers. Okay. The reason we did this benchmark exercise is because today you're going to order fractions on a number line. So now that you have these written out in order just by comparing to the benchmark, it's going to be much easier when you have to order them on a number line. So we will order the fractions from least to greatest, but let's first position them on a number line, and I'm going to use what I just figured out. So I knew like 1/10 was going to be my smallest, so I'll pull 1/10 down on, oh, can't do that. I will label 1/10 on my number line, and I'm imagining if this were split into like 10 equal pieces, I'm going to guess each piece is about that big. I'm approximating, but I could see I could maybe fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe I drew it a little small, but 1/10 is pretty close to that. I could kind of fit 10 pieces on the number line. Okay, so now I've used 1/10. Then the next one we saw, we knew 2/6 was a little bit less than a half, right? In fact, it's 1/6 less than a half actually. So we have to think, okay, 1/6, that's bigger than 1/10. I'm gonna maybe put two, if this were split up into 6 pieces, 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna put 2/6 like right around here, right? Because basically then I would have 1, this would be 1/6, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to, 1/6, 2/6, 3/6 would be 1/2. So I think 2/6 would go right around there. Then I'm going to do my 52nd hundredths, right? I knew that was more than a half, and that's only 2/100ths more than a half. So that one you're going to want to draw. I don't even know if I did that close enough. That's going to be very close to 1/2. Because can you picture 100th in your head? 100th is so tiny, and this is only 2/100ths more than a half. So I actually probably should have drawn that even closer. But that's as long as you're close to 1/2, we know you understood the concept. And this does say approximate, so it doesn't have to be exact. And now I have to decide between 3/4 and 11/12. So the way I'm going to decide how to order those, and I'm going to picture, well, how much is missing from a whole? So this is 1/12 away from one whole, right? Because 12/12 would be a whole. And then this is 1/4 away from a whole. So which is bigger, a 1/4 or a 1/12? A 1/4 is much bigger, right? I have to kind of picture, if I pictured this number line in 4 equal pieces, I'd say that's about where 3/4 is going to fall. Whereas if I picture this in 12 equal pieces, I'm going to think this has to be even closer than 1/10. This would have to be like here maybe for my 11/12. Okay, and now that will help us order the numbers from least to greatest. I could just make my list. It was 1/10, then it was 2/6, then it was 1/2, then it was 3/4, and then it was 11/12. So you're going to get a lot of practice doing that, ordering fractions today. Don't forget your strategies, including common denominator, like we practiced in the first example, and benchmark fractions, which were really helpful to us on this number line.